Hello, good morning students. Welcome to B.Sc-II 4th semester Zoology class. Today I am going to discuss on apoptosis and necrosis. Apoptosis and necrosis. So before that, one more topic is there, that is the theories on aging concept. On this topic, material is not sufficient. Appropriate material is not available. Whenever I get it, I will take that chapter. So the next part is apoptosis and necrosis. So what is apoptosis and what is necrosis? What are the differences between apoptosis and necrosis? What are the advantages of apoptosis? What are the significances of necrosis and apoptosis? That we shall discuss today. See, the cells of multicellular organisms undergo the various process of growth and death. You know that all multicellular organisms in their body, cells undergo various processes during the growth and death of the organism, multicellular organism. So cellular death is very much essential for every organism in order to survive and grow. Cellular death is also essential for every organism because for its survival, some cells have to die, some cells have to grow. So in our body, for example, in every 120 days, the RBCs are perishing. They are dying. They have to die. And new cells have to develop for our survival. Therefore, cellular death is a very much essential process for every organism in order to survive and grow. Our body consists of various types of cells located in the different parts of the body. Our body consists of various types of cells. So various types of tissues we have. That means various types of cells must be there. There are broadly 4 types of tissues in our body: connective tissue, epithelial tissue, the muscular tissue, nervous tissue. And these 4 types of tissues together form different organs. Organs together form organ systems. So we have different types of cells in our body. There are 2 ways through which the cell undergoes the process of death. For dying, cells undergo 2 processes. There are mainly 2 processes or 2 methods, 2 ways through which the cells can undergo the process of death. What are those? It is either through getting exposed to unfavorable or harmful environment. So whenever our body cells exposed to unfavorable conditions, harmful environment, right, or by an injury or a regulated process of disintegration, so they are dying. If our body cells are exposed to unfavorable condition, they die, they perish. If they are exposed to harmful environment, they have to die. If they are exposed to injury, they will die, right? So if they are exposed to disintegration, they will die, right? So our body cells, not all body cells, some cells, every day, every moment, die and new cells are appearing. The death of a cell occurs in 2 different ways, namely apoptosis and necrosis. There are 2 ways, mainly 2 ways: apoptosis and necrosis. Both are cell death, no doubt. Both processes are cell death processes, apoptosis and necrosis. But difference is there. Lot of difference is there between apoptosis and necrosis. Apoptosis is natural death, whereas necrosis is unnatural death. artificial death, pathogenic death of this cell. Actually, cells not supposed to die. Such cells are exposed to certain pathogenic invasions, and such cells may die. See, for example, if you are infected by the malaria causing organism, plasmodium. So plasmodium is endoparasite. It lives inside the RBCs. Its food is hemoglobin. So it feeds on hemoglobin and kills the RBCs before its lifespan. What is the lifespan of RBC? 120 days. Before 120 days, they will die. Why they die? They are not supposed to die, but they are dying because of the entry of these pathogens. So such type of cell death is not natural. Such death is called as necrosis. A number of various toxic chemicals or even physical events such as radiation, trauma, heat, lack of oxygen supply due to reduced flow of blood may lead to the cell death. Yes, sometimes when our body cells are exposed to radiation such as X-rays, gamma rays, UV rays, they may die. Trauma, injury, heat shock, lack of oxygen supply, so they may die. All these chemical or physical events can lead to a lethal disruption of the cell structure as well as the activity. Apoptosis and necrosis both are the variants of cell death. Necrosis is known to be a kind of cell death where the cell dies in an untimely way due to some uncontrolled external factors. Cells die. That is called necrosis. Apoptosis is known as a predefined suicide cell where the cell destroys itself, maintaining a smooth functioning of the body. So apoptosis is a programmed cell death. This is also called as programmed cell death. They have to die. They have to perish after some days. In order to maintain smooth functioning of the body. They have to die. They have to be destroyed. They have to be killed by the natural process. Such type of cell death is called apoptosis. So in other words, apoptosis is called as programmed cell death. Their death is already programmed in their genes. So the genes that are present in such cells are responsible for death of such cells. Such type of death is called as apoptosis. So apoptosis is helpful. In some ways, it is helpful to the organism, whereas necrosis is not helpful. Let us discuss the differences between apoptosis and necrosis. Apoptosis. Number one, apoptosis is a regular process of cell death that occurs in the body where cell itself takes part in the death. So it's a natural process. It's a regular process. Apoptosis is a regular process, whereas necrosis is a cellular process of death occurring when the cells are highly exposed to extreme external conditions. When cells are exposed to highly external, the extreme conditions, extreme temperature, extremely high temperature is present outside the body in the environment, surrounding environment. Cells that are directly coming in contact with high temperature may die. So that is called necrosis. Second point is, it is a natural process and not caused by external factors. The apoptosis is a natural process and it is not caused by external factors. External factors like environment, temperature or radiation or certain chemicals, they are not responsible for apoptosis. Apoptosis is under the control of genes. So necrosis, it is caused by external agents such as infection, trauma and toxins. Infections. Due to infection, cells die. Due to trauma, cells die. Due to toxins, toxic substances, cells die. This type of death comes under necrosis. Then the organelles are still functional even after the death of the cell. Here in apoptosis, the organelles of the cell are still functional after the death of the cell, whereas here in necrosis, the organelles are not functional after the death of the cell. Next, in apoptosis, the cell membranes break into several apoptotic bodies, whereas here the cell membranes breaks and releases cell contents. Here cell membrane breaks, releases the cell content, whereas here after the breaking of cell membranes are made into apoptotic bodies. Next, in apoptosis, this process is said to be bit beneficial but is known to abnormal if in case the cellular processes that keep the body balanced cause many cell deaths or even too few. It is always damaging or harmful. This one, necrosis, is always damaging and harmful, whereas here it is beneficial. And no symptoms are observed during the process of apoptosis. No symptoms are seen during the process of apoptosis. See, in your body, at every moment, RBCs are dying. Do you have any idea about it? We are not known. It is not known. We don't know our body cells are dying. So, by the process of apoptosis, cells are dying, and it is not, its symptom is not observed during the process of apoptosis, whereas necrosis is observed. The symptoms like inflammation, tissue death, and decreased blood flow at the infected site are observed during the process of necrosis. And here it is caused due to the self-generated signals within a cell. Yes, apoptosis is caused due to self-generated signals. I told you these signals are coming from the genes. Genes are present within the cell. So the signals for apoptosis are coming within the cell, whereas here signals are coming from the external source. It is caused by bacterial and fungal infections, microbacterial infections, denatured proteins, pancreatitis, or by the deposits of antibodies and antigens. Next, apoptosis. Not much treatment is required in case of apoptosis. Necrosis, when untreated, is said to be very dangerous and can prove to be fatal. Hence, medical treatment is very much necessary in case of necrosis. Suppose at one place injury has happened. That injury has to be repaired. Otherwise, that injury may spread to other parts of the body. It is dangerous. That part shows the necrosis of certain cells. Therefore, necrosis is dangerous. It should not be neglected. So, apoptosis process doesn't require energy since the enzymes carry out the process. Here, enzymes are not energy is not required for the apoptosis. That is done by the enzymes. Whereas here in necrosis, energy is required to carry out the process. So these are the differences between apoptosis and necrosis. So at the end of this chapter, we came to know apoptosis and necrosis are the two cell death processes. Cell death processes. Cells die in two ways, either in the form of apoptosis or in the form of necrosis. Apoptosis is a natural process, whereas necrosis is a unnatural process or artificial process under certain external extremities. Cells show this type of death. During our embryonic growth, in between the digits of limbs, web-like structure is there. Web-like structure is the extension of skin between the digits. This type of web is present in aquatic birds. In water, for their locomotion, this web helps in proper movement of the body of the organism, animal. But in human embryo, this web is present during its development. As it grows, the web is disappearing and digits are developing. So we have digits, we have fingers. But when we were in embryonic condition, in between digits, web was present. That web is disappeared because of apoptosis. The cells that are present in the web like structure are dying. They die. Because of their death, web is disappeared and digits are developed. Clear? So this is called natural cell death or apoptosis or programmed cell death. It is called programmed cell death. That death is due to the internal signals that are coming from their genes. Genes only program their death. Okay, so I hope you have understood the differences between apoptosis and necrosis. Significance of apoptosis. What are the significance? Death by apoptosis is a normal phenomenon that serves to eliminate cells that are no longer needed and to maintain a constant number of cells of various types in tissues. It is important in the following physiological situations. Okay, the programmed destruction of cells during embryogenesis. Yes, I told you just now. During embryogenesis, growth of the embryo, some cells have to develop, they have to die. Then only growth of the embryo occurs. Okay. Next, involution of hormone-dependent tissues upon hormone deprivation, such as endometrial cell breakdown during the menstrual cycle and a regression of lactating breast after weaning. This occurred due to the apoptosis. See, endometrial lining, breakdown of endometrial lining due to the deprivation of hormone. Endometrium, you know what is endometrium? Internal lining of the uterus. This is called endometrium. So in every cycle, menstrual cycle, this endometrium at its end gets destructed, or broken down. That is because of apoptosis of cells present in the endometrium. That has to happen. Otherwise endometrium may not be removed. So old endometrium has to be removed and new endometrium has to develop. So endometrium is nothing but sort of layer, cushion like layer, which is being used for the development of embryo. So when the embryo is not there, the endometrium lining is not required. It has to be destructed. It has to be removed. For its removal, apoptosis has to occur. And lactating breast, after birth of the child, mother breast starts to ooze milk. Production of milk occurs only after the childbirth. So after weaning of the child from lactation, the mammary glands have to be shrunken. They have to be shrunken. So that is done by the apoptosis of cells present in the mammary gland alveoli. Mammary gland alveoli. So after weaning of young one from lactation, the breast becomes non-lactating. Non-lactating. It is because of the apoptosis. Then cell loss in proliferating cell populations such as intestinal crypt epithelia in order to maintain a constant number. So epithelium of the intestine and epithelium of the gut is continuously removed and new epithelium is formed, and that is also their death is also because of apoptosis. Elimination of cells that have served their useful purpose, such as neutrophils in an acute inflammatory response and lymphocytes at the end of immune response. In these situations, cells undergo apoptosis because they are deprived of necessary survival signals such as growth factors. So growth factors are not there, therefore they have to be eliminated. They have to be eliminated through apoptosis. Lymphocytes, neutrophils. You know what are neutrophils? Neutrophils, lymphocytes are type of WBCs. WBCs. You know what is the normal number of the WBC in our blood? 6 to 9,000 WBCs per cubic millimeter of blood. Next, elimination of potentially harmful self-reactive lymphocytes either before or after they have completed their maturation in order to prevent reactions against the body's wound tissues. So after performing their functions, lymphocytes have to be killed. Otherwise what happens, our body immune system is affected. So in order to prevent reactions against the body's own tissues, are affected by our immune system. So to control it, the lymphocytes after their maturation, they have to perish. All these things happen by apoptosis. Cell death induced by cytotoxic T lymphocytes, a defense mechanism against viruses and tumors that serves to kill virus infected and neoplastic cells. Cytotoxic T cells. There are 4 different types of T cells: helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells, then suppressor T cells, and what is there? Memory T cell. So they are required for the controlling of infections caused by viruses or bacteria, pathogens. So or neoplastic cells, cancer cells. So after their removal, they have to be killed. They have to be removed. So that is done by apoptosis. So in all these, during all these physiological change, conditions, apoptosis takes place. So significance of necrosis. Necrosis is a highly pro-inflammatory form of cell death and results in the release of alarmins or danger signals. Necrosis produces danger signals such as heat shock proteins, uric acid, ATP, DNA, and nuclear proteins that alert and activate the innate immune system. So necrosis tells or it gives signal to our immune system for the production of antibodies and other defense mechanism to fight against pathogens. Okay, so of course necrosis is not good, it is dangerous, but during their death, they give signal to our immune system immune system to fight against pathogens, right? So this is about apoptosis and necrosis. Let us come to the assignments on this topic. So what is apoptosis? Give definition for apoptosis, and what is necrosis. Write two significance of apoptosis. Significant importance of apoptosis. We already discussed so far. Many significant features we discussed. Among them, any two significant importance of apoptosis you have to explain. Okay, I hope you have followed this. Thank you.